Ani bonjour, Marcia. Nice to have you here at Ancestral Ascensions to share your story of transformation. So if you would like to introduce yourself, who you are, and what you're doing, I will let you take it away.
Oh, ani Trish. Bonjour, wamnam kwe dishnakas, makwado dem, wikwem kong, donjaba, Anishinaabe kwe ndao, bejik medewian kwe. I want to say my Anishinaabe nosewin is Morning Star, and my second name is Marcia. I'm from Okwamakong, Bear Clan, and I belong to the Medewin Lodge in my community of Wikwem Kong. I'm a social worker. I'm a sessional instructor at Laurentian University, and also the owner of Reflections Nanawangijik Bejagojik and Wabarang Holistic Journey, which is private practice.
Awesome. That's a lot of things you're doing there. Yeah, that's good though. I feel like, it's the ones that are busy that, get a lot of things accomplished here in life. So why don't we break this down just a little bit? So you talked about your Anishinaabe Noswin. So, talking about your how the spirit knows you in the language. That's what they call you. So just breaking that down, um, you know, as mine is. And I don't think I've ever actually said what my name is here, but being Nakshi Nanushkaskwe, which is the evening hummingbird woman, was a name that I was given a long time ago. So what kind of brought you into doing what you're doing? So you're doing some sessional teaching with the university. Is it Laurentian University you're doing that?
Yeah, Laurentian University.
Yeah. And then you also have your own private practice and that involves equine therapy.
Yeah, so I started in practice almost 8 years ago now. Um, so I have included that in the last few years to do equine, one-on-one equine therapy as well.
Awesome. So how did you kind of get into the equine therapy?
Well, it's a bit of a long story for that one, but it's always I feel that I have to tell the story to have a full understanding of how that came to be. So I work at Chicago Health Center in Sudbury, and my background has been working in child welfare for 14 years, and having to get out of that system to be more of that helping person. And so going back to school and getting my master's, which led me to, that switch over of children's mental health. And so that's when I had started at Chicago. So I worked with a number of youth, and I know the system between mainstream and working with our Indigenous people is so different. And my mainstream work was only lasted a year because I felt that, you know what, this isn't how we do things. And so working at Chicago has helped me to, see many clients. And so working with children who have been, um, traumatized. And I had one little guy who I worked with who had PTSD, and he would come in with his adopted mother and would not be able to sit through a session. And he would literally hide under my table and scream and swear. And I'm like, oh my goodness, had this been, working in mainstream, they would say that this person is not ready for counseling. And so I really just thought, and I thought, we never give up on our people. And that's the way that I was raised. We love our people unconditionally. And so I would say, bring him back next week, bring him back next week. And it was the same thing, what was going on each weekend, and I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to help this little guy? I had, one of our former chiefs from our community, Hazel Fox Reckley, who now works at the school board here in Sudbury. And she gave me this card with a horse on it. And she says, "Oh, this woman came to present at my program. I mean, at our school." And so she says, "Wouldn't it be so cool if we worked with horses?" And I was like, sure. And, I put it on my bulletin board and I was like, okay, no, I'm afraid of horses. I've been traumatized as a young person, but because my grandfather had horses. And, but he never taught us about, our relationship with them, the spirit of them and what they can do. So, I never really understood that until my recent trainings. But going back, I just called her up and thinking about, the veterans and, how they work with horses for, their PTSD and such. One day I just called her up and I went and checked out her program and participated in her an hour and a half session of her equine assisted learning facilitation. And man, I was like, wow, I just forgot about my own stuff and, having that fear, but then facing that fear and, everything just went away. And I thought this was so amazing. And so, at Shikakmakwa, I said, we need to do this. And so I got approval to do a 6-week program for 6 of the kids that I've already been working with who, talk therapy wasn't progressing or working. And so we did this for 6 weeks. And, our very first session with that little boy, the little boy attended, and he was the very first one to lead that horse. And my coworker looked at me after the session and she tears, "Did you see that?" And to me, that really sold it for me. I thought, we got to do this. This is amazing. And, we truly saw so much results in that. And so that's how I started and I continued on that journey. And yeah, I forgot what the question is about, but I did.
That's pretty awesome though, because I really liked what you said just in terms of like our veterans. Our veterans had the opportunity to work with horses, so I almost feel like, aligning with the whole podcast, Ancestral Ascensions. I feel like our ancestors give us these messages and this is what, encourage us to take those steps forward. So even with your grandfather owning those horses prior to but not really understanding. So I am planning to come this weekend to your and by the time this airs, actually the ceremony will have already taken place. But I do plan to come and check things out up there. I feel like horses have been something that I've always been drawn to. So, but same thing, I had a little bit of a trauma. As a young person, I always wanted to be around horses, and I went on a horse that they didn't secure the saddle to, so of course I fell off of it. Um, so I think it would be really cool to come up and see what you have going on there for sure. And so, what do you think? Like, so what kinds of things in your life? I really like what the part about this young boy and finding alternative ways to deal with that trauma that our people still are faced with. We know the stats that our children are still 1 in 3 in care, even though we only make up in Ontario anyways 4.9%, or even overall in Canada, I think it's up to 4.9% of the population is First Nations people. So there still is a lot of trauma happening with our children being in care and in every system we can imagine. So what was your life like growing up? Do you feel that that's kind of like what urged you to do what you're doing today?
Well, for me, I grew up in urban area. I've never, grew up in my community. And so for me, it was a real struggle because, living in those two worlds, not really being accepted by either one. And, I really think that, even though it was that way, I had to learn. I had to learn the hard way. And you know what? and sometimes that's just the way it is. And because you begin to appreciate, things that maybe you didn't have, or, or striving for those things that you want to achieve. And so growing up in the urban area, I was faced with a lot of racism. I never felt I was smart enough. I never felt I was good enough. And so those things, I don't think it was until, I always share with my young woman that I work with, is that, what, I never ever dreamed of, a future, what it was like, or I never had, as a teenager, positive role models. And, it took my one aunt to really, to say, you should come to Trent University. And I was like, what? Like, nobody ever told me I could go to university. And I was like, me? And, and I was like, wow. And so, that really just kind of like opened my eyes, and I applied. And, that was in my 20s. And I started learning about our history and what happened to our people. And, then I really understood my family structure. My grandmothers attended residential school at Spanish. And, I got to interview them. I got to talk to them about their experiences. And so, that part of, coming to know my identity and who I am, that was a really important piece for me. So, with that, I share now is that, I did my BA at Trent, but I went on to do my social work degree and my master's degree. And, now I'm teaching at Laurentian, and, I'm doing all these amazing things, and I'm just got accepted for my PhD and going to do that at Trent, where it all began. And I just feel that's been full circle for me. So, and I
Nice.
share that because it's been a difficult journey, but I feel that, with my aunt there always supporting me, and she was such a beautiful person. And she's no longer with us, but I feel like she's a push, man. She's the one who pushed me along this way, and I'm so grateful for, you know those people, my auntie, and, the ones who have been in my life to encourage me to continue.
Absolutely. That's so awesome that you get those, that we get to feel those, that push from the other side, because I had an auntie as well who did lots of amazing things in a very small time that she spent here on Mother Earth, for sure. Passing away at 42 years old with breast cancer, but I'm actually named after her, and she did a lot of really good things in terms of like starting No Kikwe and in London, and having the first Akikwe group, through the Medewan, through the Three Fires Medewan Lodge way back in the day. So she taught me those kinds of things, and you're just bringing back these memories of her as you're speaking of your auntie. And so this is what I mean. We have to really be open to listening, or just maybe even recognizing that we're still getting those messages from those ones who loved us while we were here and while they were here together. And listening and hearing that, and pushing through all of the things that we may have never, like you said, maybe never even dreamt of doing. It's quite an amazing thing. And so I think that you are absolutely following your life path. And so when you think back, is there a certain time where it was just kind of like the catalyst to, hey, this is what I'm going to do? Or would you say that was when your auntie said to you, why don't you come to Trent University? Would you say that that was your catalyst, or was there something else that really pushed you along?
Yeah, I would say that was the first push. And for me, she introduced me to, all of the teachings, and, that was the awakening for me, was having that cultural piece, and looking at, our own spirituality. And, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here today. And I'm always, always, grateful for all the things, the opportunities that I have. And I shared something last week, which was, somebody well, a few people always say like, how can you do all of these things? And I'm like, man, it's just because my ancestors are just pushing me. Come on, go, go, go. And
That's right.
and I feel that. I really do. And then, like the horse stuff, never in a million years would I have ever thought I'd be working with horses. And that for me too has been like a big, big push because, it just took that one little boy, and now, I bought the business and I was gifted with two horses to start this program, and then, I met Terry and then I met the Ojibwe spirit horses and, we just welcomed them to our community June the 4th. And on Sunday we're having this welcoming ceremony for them and feast because, I've really, really seen, so much happen with the people that I work with, and also grateful for my supporters, at Chicago for helping me, seek out other training and, which takes me to Standing Rock. And, we just had our one of our teachers come from Alberta to come to our community to do his work and to share with our community. So, like all of these things are connected, and it's just like you just have to listen and just go with it, even though you're scared. Like, I don't know how many times I felt like throwing in the towel, like this is too much, but everything has worked out the way that it's supposed to. Like it's unreal. It just blows my mind. And now we got 4 Ojibwe ponies in our community. And it's a historical event for our community. And they're going to bring so much healing. And, for me, that's why I'm doing this work.
Absolutely. It's funny you say when you almost threw in the towel. I remember when I was taking my HR management program, and the third class was accounting. And so like throughout my schooling, I was like, I never wanted to take accounting. I never really wanted to focus anything on math. And and I for because it was all online, I had to get like ebooks and all this kind of stuff, and you could never really speak to anyone. It was all really mostly online. And I was like, okay, that's it. I don't really need this HR. I don't need this HR, management certificate. I can just forget it. Forget it. I'm done with school because as you know, that you and I, we took our masters together in social work. And I was just thinking, why am I continuing to still go to school? Yet here, when I hear that you're going to the PhD program, I'm like, I think about that too. But anyways, I was gonna quit, and that was a Friday, and I remember I came home and I was looking on Facebook, and and you had a meme that said, "Today I decided to throw in the towel, but Creator threw it back."
Mhm.
And like literally, I read that meme and I just couldn't believe it, because then like right after that, like my teacher got a hold of me, calm me down, like, calm me down about not being able to get the ebook and all the rest of it. And I just thought, even those are signs, those are those messages that we get from our ancestors, from those ones that are guiding us. And so this is what I really want people to know, that it's not like, it certainly isn't magic. We just have to pay attention to the signs that we get, and those phrases that we hear in our head, that this person would have said to us or that person would have said to us, to keep us on that track, and I mean, the HR management, I still not entirely sure why I took that program. But I do have it now, and I did graduate, with quite good marks, so I was pretty happy about it. But yeah, you just make me laugh when you said throwing in the towel, because it just reminded me of that meme. So yes, we do
Mhm.
plan to come and see the horses there this weekend. But if there's something that you would like to share with everyone who is maybe looking for their path, trying to find out what that right path is or what their purpose is, what kind of advice or what would you say to these people that are looking?
Well, for me, it's I'm a prayer, like you're asking for something, and you just put your tobacco down, and you ask for that. You envision what you want to see, and it'll come to you. If you're in the right frame of mind, and if you're working on yourself every day, you're healthy, those things will come to you. And I think that we all have to remember is, like, we all been through things, but we just have to be like kind to ourselves and kind to others. And if we're walking on a good path, that those things will come to us when we're ready.
Absolutely. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Just be opening to listening. So I think it's really, really interesting. We both talked about, you talked about Shkakmakwe, which means Mother Earth in the language. I talked about Akikwe, which was, that first group that my auntie started down Walpole Island. And as I was sitting here shuffling to do our ancestors and angels cards, this group of cards popped out, and the first one, of course, is Earth Mother.
Mm.
So I always think it's pretty awesome that that this piece comes out, and all of how what I have learned about Mother Earth is that she is the one who can create these miracles here for us on this earth plane. So it is that divine feminine mother that comes in and does what she needs to do. But I'm just gonna have a look at these other cards, because usually only maybe one even comes out, but there's actually four of them, not surprising, come out when I think of like the four directions and
Mm.
that kind of thing. And even in terms of spring, we're just finishing up our spring season where they say that the beginning of creation was in this springtime. And we're coming up to the solstice here at the end of this month, and so springtime and all those new beginnings, the things our new path. But watching those seeds grow, and I think that it's really important, like exactly what you were saying, all of these things that have been able to come to us over our lifetime are those seeds. And this is what we have to go, and we have to do some of that self-reflection and thinking back as to what were those seeds that were planted within us. Even in terms of having those horses in the community, those were seeds that were planted. And actually, when I think of that, actually, my uncle Marshall, I think he was the only one who had horses in our community um, when I was a little kid. So, um, just thinking of that. And then I'm not surprised this one came up either. This is Water Guardian. So as you know, or may not know, myself, I've had an opportunity to do a really long water walk. Actually, it was for a month and a half with grandmother Josephine Mundam, and but I also think about my Auntie Colleen, that one from Walpole Island, who started that Akikwe group way back in the day. But you did some water walking too around your community, did you not?
Mhm. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I did a few times with our community, and walking around Weequampong. But my aunts are really, Liz Ozamic and my auntie Shirley Williams. They've been doing a water walk out in Peterborough for like so many years now, and
Hmm.
so we're always connected to that water.
Absolutely, the role of the women to look after that
Mhm.
water. But
Mhm.
it's also talking about connecting with our emotions. So when we think about that water, absolutely, it has to do with the emotional work. The emotional work that we need to really have a look at so that we can move beyond them to be able to maybe even water these seeds of change, the things that have been planted within us. And then of course it's so funny that the last card that came out is Earth Guardian.
Mm.
So here we are, all connected to the earth and water. And it says, stay rooted and grounded. So absolutely, as you were talking about, connecting with our ancestral roots, making sure that we are rooted in that, because, like you said, not all of us, as we all know, are not raised with our culture and not raised with, where we come from, and really helping us to stay rooted and grounded within that first mother. So what an amazing bunch of cards that came out here, of course, with Mother Earth and the Earth Guardian. And, and really, I think about these things, and, as First Nations people or as Indigenous people of the earth, that is our job, is to make sure that, Mother Earth is looked after. And of course, that we look after the water as well. Because she absolutely, doesn't need us to live on her. We need her to live. So being that first mother.
Mhm.
So awesome. What amazing cards to come out. So I want to say, Miigwech, thank you so much for joining me today with this Ancestral Ascensions podcast, and really letting people know that follow your dreams, follow whatever it is that, spirit is asking you to do. And I really appreciate you spending the time with me here today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Trish, for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to participating in the ceremony this weekend.
Perfect.